Welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us on what has been a wet Wednesday in South Bend, the Michiana area. It is much drier right now, and we do expect to have South Bend Cubs baseball coming up with a pregame show to begin at around 6:45 live from Four Winds Field here on Sports Radio WSBT. I'm shooting solo at the moment. Vince DeDario expected to crash land at any time as he gets rolling from job one and into job two. You know, this being job two, of course, as we get ready for what will be a mailbag show today. We've got some questions already submitted from listeners, and we've got more coming right now as we speak in the YouTube chat. So that's what we'll be doing here today as spring football begins to wind down for Notre Dame. A week from Saturday, we've got the Blue Gold game, Notre Dame's 95th annual Blue Gold football game, and you'll be able to hear the action live from Notre Dame Stadium right here on Sports Radio WSBT. It'll be a 2 o'clock Eastern time kickoff Saturday, April 25th. We've got, from what I understand, a 30-minute pregame show. So we'll be on the air at around 1:30 Eastern time, kicking off at 2 o'clock Eastern time on Saturday the 25th. I will have the play-by-play. Vince DeDario and Jesse Steiners will be there to provide some wonderful color commentary as well, and you'll be able to hear it live right here on 96.1 FM as well as 960 AM. Streams live on the Sports Radio WSBT app, and you can also hear it live on the Sirius XM Notre Dame channel. So those are your platforms for you to listen. We're going to do a walk and talk with Vince DeDario. I thought you said you were driving. You're still in the school right now.
I am now walking out of the school, if that helps. Just a little excitement at the end of the day. I mean, you know, it's just, why would it be?
No, he's cutting out. He's cutting out. So I don't know. Vince will be along at some point. Let's put it that way. Up there he's back. He's back. I think the sudden
I was jumping
movement
from the Wi-Fi to cellular.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Leaving the comfort zone of the Wi-Fi and into the cellular.
Yes.
Out of there. But people watching on the YouTube channel can see just how wonderful the weather looks. But it's not raining out there right now, right?
Not currently. I mean, it's very wet out here, but it's not raining currently, so that's a win.
Definitely. Did you have drastic measures take place in the Dean of Discipline's office today, Vince?
Were there drastic measures taken?
Yes.
Is that what you asked?
Yes, that is what they asked.
There were plenty of drastic measures today that were taken. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. That explains it.
Yep.
All right. Do you feel safe to drive and talk at the same time? You obviously don't have to look at any of us. So,
well,
but it's up to you.
We're good to go. Like, let's roll. Let's rock and roll, man.
All right. Now we've got it sounds like Vince is coming to us from an underwater tunnel, but
oh no. Well,
we'll see how it
probably
goes. We'll see how it goes. I don't know.
You know, I'll be home in 10 minutes. So
no, you're all right.
You're
all right. Yeah, it sounds better now. It's
okay.
You know, you're driving. We gotta make do with what we've got here. It is mailbag day. Plenty of questions in here, and I'm kind of scrolling through. Looking at some of these questions, and I'll kind of have to let's just start with this one. Salty Virginia Peanuts put this one in. Marcus Freeman accidentally referred to Devin Fitzgerald as Larry at his last press conference. Was he wrong to do so?
I'm not surprised. I mean, obviously, a lot of these NFL guys who have sons going to Notre Dame, that's going to be an easy mistake. I mean, I call my sons by the wrong names. So, like, I get it, man. I understand, and he probably knows Larry, and it's an easy mistake to make. So I'll give him a pass on the mistaking of the names.
Yeah, and look, I remember when Barry Bonds was playing. Barry Bonds was obviously one of the best players in baseball for his entire career, but announcers would repeatedly call him Bobby Bonds all the time.
Right.
He had a
Right.
dad who came before him. So it's not uncommon, though, a little slip of the tongue. And you're talking about Larry Fitzgerald, who is a Hall of Famer, and Marcus Freeman, right around the same age. So Marcus Freeman is obviously very familiar with Larry, and I mean, the other part of this is look at some of the highlight reel catches that that Devin Fitzgerald has made at practice. I think everybody'd be calling him Larry out there too. That's probably where it started, because I think Freeman kind of mentioned that. The guys are out there calling him Larry. Well, you make those kind of catches, they're going to keep calling you Larry, I think.
I mean, is he one of the ones that's wearing Dad's number as well?
Ooh,
I can't remember.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. That's a good question.
I can't remember if he's wearing 11 or not.
You're quizzing me. You're quizzing me on numbers, and we haven't even. Yes, he is wearing number 11. So yeah, he is wearing his dad's jersey number. So I think that that's an easy. I guarantee you that at least once a season, some announcer on TV is going to call Devin Fitzgerald Larry Fitzgerald. I guarantee it.
Oh, I'm right there with you, and it might not be this year because I don't know if he's going to get on the field or not. Maybe he does, but that's a stacked wide receiver room, so we'll have to wait and see if he, cracks the lineup and all that fun stuff. But a lot of fodder for play-by-play guys with all these NFL guys and their dads, and lots to talk about.
Oh, I mean, that is just chum in the water for a TV announcer with all these NFL guys. You know how many times that's going to come up? Again, every time a game is not on NBC, so it's on ESPN or CBS or whatever it happens to be, you're going to get like the lists on the screens of sons and fathers, who played in the NFL. And I mean, like to start off with, you've got Fitzgerald and Bettis on the roster, and they're both playing wide receiver as well.
Right.
Not to mention Bryant.
Correct.
Go on down the line.
Yep, 100%. So I mean, you've got all kind. There's a bunch on there, and some of them are wearing their dad's numbers as well. So it's going to make it even more complicated.
Yes, exactly. All right, we got some questions also submitted in the IB Champions Lounge as well. This one is from 13 Reasons Why. He asks, on the defensive line, will we see the same starters each game, barring injury, of course, he says, or will someone take over a spot? Which spot and who? And he says, does starting have as much impact as playing time?
That's a lot. I don't really care who starts on the defensive line because of the rotation situation. I care more about reps and plays on the field and what that looks like. And I think that could vary based on the kind of offenses that these guys are going up against. You might want to bring in bigger bodies for different kinds of offenses. You might want to have more of a speed package for different kinds of offenses, depending on what Notre Dame's going up against. So I don't take a whole lot of stock in who actually starts on the defensive line game to game. So I don't know that that'll be a thing, because we've seen in the past where guys have started and not played the most amount of snaps. And I think that could definitely be the case.
Yeah, I think more important is, especially if the game is on the line, what's the fourth quarter rotation?
Exactly.
Who's on the field in the fourth quarter? That's going to be the biggest thing. And as DJ says, against Navy, it's all going to get there'll be a big shake-up for the Navy game, obviously. And some of it's going to be opponent specific as well. Even look at the linebacker position. I don't think you're necessarily going to have the same linebackers all the time. Some of it's going to depend on a lot of it's going to depend on the opponent. Are they a 12 heavy personnel team? Would they be a 10 personnel heavy team? All these different things. 10 personnel obviously being more wide receivers and, no tight end on the field, 11 personnel, 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers, 12 personnel, where you've got 2 tight ends on the field. So like the linebackers, the secondary, all of that stuff is going to depend on what specific opponent you're playing and what kind of stuff they run. And with the defensive line, it's just, the bigger question is, I think, which positions are going to truly run even 3 deep, and what does that give you over the course of a game, in terms of being able to keep guys fresh, and then again, leading to the fourth quarter, if a game, is still like a 1 or 2 possession game in the fourth quarter, what guys are on the field in those spots. I think that's the most important thing. So I agree with what you're saying, like who the starters are much lower in priority and importance, I think.
Well, and I also, I think they are deep enough right now where you could shake up the starting lineup depending on who you're going after. You know what I mean? Like in the past, they haven't been as deep, so it's the same 4 guys that start every game, and that's just the way it is. And you figure it out. They're deep enough where they can get creative and do some different things. And I think that's actually going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think so as well. Because with the 2 transfers on the interior, Elijah Hughes, he's been playing well this spring. Jason Onye has, been playing well this spring. I'm curious to see what Armel Mukam looks like when we get to see the Jersey scrimmage this Saturday, because he was in the transfer portal and actually said he was going to Northwestern. I believe he had committed to Northwestern, and then he pulled his name back out. So I'm really, really curious to see what it looks like for Armel Mukam. I haven't had a chance to see him live yet, so I'll have my eye on number 88 out there on Saturday in the Jersey scrimmage, and others as well. But really curious to see what it looks like specifically for him.
Yeah, for sure.
Outbound. I don't know who this is a shot at. He says we should have former players to broadcast for the Blue Gold game. Get Quinn and Rocky to announce it. Well, I mean, if you have a big paycheck, a big checkbook, and you want to write out, probably what would that be? A 5-figure sum to get those guys to come in and call the game.
Right.
I'm sure they'd be happy to take your check if you want to do that.
Because right now, I mean, even if they gave me a 200% raise, I'm still getting paid the same amount to do the game. So, it's like the price is right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Outbound. I don't know. Maybe Outbound came back. He says they would do it for fun. I don't know what world you live in, Outbound.
Yeah, no, they would.
Professional broadcasters don't do anything for fun. There's always going to be a check in it. Like Brady Quinn and Rocky Koyman wouldn't just show up in South Bend for nothing. There would have to be on the lines. And the other part of this, as we've talked about before, is they both work for other places as well.
Exactly. They're probably not contractually allowed to do it.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if Outbound is talking about the radio broadcast we're doing or the Peacock broadcast that Tony Simeone, and I'm not sure who's going to be doing the game for him, but either way, there's got to be a check to make it happen. They're not doing it for nothing. It's not a charity case. So, yeah.
Correct.
Vince is slowly crawling downstairs to the man cave as he works his way.
Yep. I'm in the green room.
We've followed
We're getting
Vince
closer
all the way through the journey. Salty wants to know if I think he asked this a couple of weeks ago. Okay. All right. You can check out for a second and log into the computer if you want.
Sounds good. I'll leave myself here.
All right. He's chopping out anyway as he gets into his basement. Salty wants to know, is the slower version of After Midnight by Eric Clapton in the 1988 Michelob commercials the best music ever used in a TV ad campaign? So I realize I'm old, Salty, but you're asking me to remember a 1988 Michelob ad campaign where they used Eric Clapton. The only thing I can remember from like back in that era is the Bob Seger Like a Rock. I think it was like for Chevy trucks or something like that. They did the Like a Rock. I thought that was that's a pretty good song as well. After Midnight, solid song by Eric Clapton. I'll take your word for it because off the top of my head, I don't remember that specific campaign. Paulo is saying $10. Vince has a Phil Collins In the Air tonight as he's rolling. I don't even think that Vince probably gets the reference to that. So
I got nothing. You guys aren't asking about music. I'm in trouble.
yes. Sean wants to know, have we watched the Bussin' with the Boys trip to Notre Dame? Have you watched or listened to any of the Bussin' with the Boys podcast with Marcus Freeman?
I have not. I know that's more of a Jesse Stiers listen. I know he's a Bussin' with the Boys kind of guy. I've never listened to any of their stuff. Doesn't mean I won't if I have an opportunity. I am fully engrossed into the Lovable Reunion podcast right now. So,
is that the someone asked about that yesterday? Someone asked if I think Stymie asked about that on yesterday's show. What episode are you up to at this
I'm
point?
on the current one with Chris Bryant. I believe that one dropped either last night or this morning. I'm not sure exactly which, but I started it this morning. But they've done Madden, which was really insightful. And then they did John Lester, which I thought was really good. And now they're doing Chris Bryant. So this is I guess it's technically the 4th episode because the first one they did was just the two of them kind of talking about it. But then now they're just interviewing guys that were on the team. And so I'm in the middle of the Chris Bryant episode. But it's all insightful stuff, though. It's good stuff. If you're a Cubs fan, you should definitely take a listen.
I've got none so far. I listened to a good chunk of the Bussin' with the Boys interview with Freeman and CJ Carr. It was good, solid. Like I said on yesterday's show, I didn't think there was anything overly revealing. Now, we played a couple of his comments from that show. We played one from Carr, one from Freeman in rapid fire yesterday. I've got another Marcus Freeman cut from the Bussin' with the Boys interview that we'll have in rapid fire to start off the 6 o'clock hour tonight. And I've also got a cut because he's on the Up and Adams show with Kay Adams, and we'll have a cut from that one as well. He's featured in 2 different national podcasts this week. So
he's been busy on the national stage.
Yeah, plus the Esquire interview.
Yeah, that's oh my goodness. Okay.
Doing a little modeling for Esquire.
I was going to say, he's going to be on the cover. Ooh.
I know.
Marcus Freeman, the model.
Looking sharp. DJ asks, how many position rooms have the issue of there are only so many snaps?
Well, wide receiver, I think, probably comes to the forefront on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we know there's talent in the offensive line room, but I think the 5 guys that they have seated in there are the 5 guys that should be in there. You know what I mean? So I'm okay there. Let's see. Linebacker room's tough because we got some injuries. So right now, it doesn't feel like there's a bunch of guys for
like
not
once
that many
the season
snaps.
starts, I think maybe it kind of falls into that. But
I mean, I guess you could make the argument. Yeah, I was gonna say defensive back. Just in I think there's a ton of talent in the defensive back room. So safety, corner, and not
but
everybody.
Especially safety, because there's it feels like that's like probably a good 5 deep right now. Like probably up to 5 guys could get out there and play really well. But again, there's only so many snaps. So, but yeah, the secondary in general as well with all this young talent that that's come in as well at the cornerback positions and the transfers that they've added.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, honestly, for me, it's safety, corner, wide receiver. Those would be the big ones for me.
I think I agree with that. I mean, offensive line is kind of always in that thing. DJ says he thinks DB, wide receiver, safety, linebacker, at least. Yeah, I think those are the 4 that we mentioned there.
Yeah.
So
those are the ones that came to mind. And that's a lot of them, by the way.
USMA 87 wants to know if anyone else tracked Vince's drive so that you know where he lives.
Hopefully it wasn't too obvious, where I was going. Ooh, hot pink.
I don't think you could really see too much in the background, but it was obviously a short drive from school to home. So speaking
what's going on with our backgrounds?
What's going on there?
I don't know why it's pink, but hey, okay.
Yours is pink?
Mine's pink. What do you have?
Black.
Oh, well, I've got pink. So I don't know what's going on, man.
Crazy times.
Yeah.
Crazy times.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? We're talking about the background in the Irish Breakdown YouTube video. And of course, you can always watch the show. It's Mailbag Day on the show, and you can always watch the show, interact, submit your own questions for the mailbag or any other day as well. You can always interact with us by watching either of the YouTube channels, Irish Breakdown or Sports Radio WSBT. And of course, you can watch them after the fact as well, even after we are done being live with all this great talk about our background in there.
So can you see a blue, like our normal, like for whatever reason,
our background is in there now for me.
The Sportsbeat one does not work. Well, nope, there it goes. Okay, never mind.
I think you've got just like some active fingers.
I don't know how you make it pink though. I don't know how that happened, but
mine never went pink. It was black. It went completely black there for a minute. But
okay, here we are.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, more mailbag questions coming up in hour number 2. Again, you'll hear some comments from Marcus Freeman. We've got South Bend Cubs baseball a little bit more than an hour away with Vince DeDario safely back in his man cave now. I'm Sean Steiners. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. We continue Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com with Vince DeDario. I'm Sean Stiers. It's Wednesday, and that means Mailbag Day on the show. We are mailbagging today, answering tons of listener questions. So far, most of them have been, the majority have been about Notre Dame football. We did have one about a 1988 beer commercial and song, but that's such is the case with Salty. You never know which direction he's going to go, I guess. But there was another question or two. This one's directed specifically to you. Joseph wants to know, Vince, has Christian Gray's move to the nickel position already been determined?
I don't think it's already been determined, but I think they're going to iron out all the possibilities in the spring. I mean, I think that's why they're doing it. You know, we don't have the luxury of being at every practice, and so I don't think any of us can say definitively that this is happening. They're definitely working it out, though, and I think we'll get a better idea obviously this Saturday with the Jersey scrimmage, and then obviously following Saturday at the Blue Gold game. So we'll have a better idea, but I don't think anything's going to be definitive for a little while. What do you think?
Oh, I didn't know if I should say anything because he didn't, address me.
The question. I want your opinion, Sean. What do you think?
Well, let me first ask you this. Would you rather, on tomorrow's show, hear from secondary coach Aaron Henry or defensive line coach Charlie Partridge?
Oh, man. Both are very intriguing for different reasons.
Both good stuff. Whichever one we don't get to tomorrow, we'll get to probably on Monday's show. So I
get to do
think about it if you want. You can think about it if you want.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
But I believe one of the comments that Aaron Henry addressed, I think this was discussed when we got to talk to him a little bit. Really good interview, by the way, Aaron Henry. A lot of good. I mean, both of those guys. But Gray, Dallas Golden, and I believe Jaden Sanders. That's what I was trying to remember off the top of my head were three names who he mentioned there. Look, they've all been working there this spring. So I think they're all going to be factors. So no, it's spring and nobody has nailed down a starting job yet, but Christian Gray has definitely been repping at nickel a lot more. There's still, I think, some work for him to do in terms of technique and just general comfort and stuff like that. But he's been taking some reps there along with a couple of other guys. So still to be determined who's going to be the guy there in the fall. That I imagine won't be worked out fully until you get through fall training camp and all that.
But they've got options, which I think is a great place to be. You know what I mean? Nothing's set in stone, I don't think, outside of Leonard Moore starting at corner. Other than that, I think, there's a lot of talent, and they got to figure out the best way to utilize it.
Yep, absolutely. Anthony with the super chat says, in the hospital with potential heart issue, hanging out with two of my favorite IB guys. Thanks for the show, gentlemen. Well, hopefully things work out for you, Anthony. Glad that we can at least occupy some time while you're in there, and hopefully everything goes well. So keep us updated on how things go. Sorry to hear that you're in the hospital. Man, that is you hear heart stuff. That is never good.
Yeah, seriously. No doubt. Yeah, we're praying for you, man. Hopefully everything turns out okay. I mean, hey, if you're well enough to listen to us, the two of us idiots, then you're doing okay. So I appreciate that.
We're still doing well. That's right. Could be a heck of a lot worse for sure. All right. This is another one from DJ. The talk about dust-ups during practice has died down. Do you think it was ever a real problem or just something for the media to focus on with so little access to practice?
I think it's a little bit of all of that, to be honest with you. I think, the media will latch on to something and just ride it until it's dead. And I think that is
especially
part of
when you don't have a lot of other things to see.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's part of it. I really do. But I also think that part of it is legit, because look, we've been covering the team for a long time, Sean. In my experience, or at least from what I remember, I don't remember a lot of dust-ups. And so I do think there's been a few more this year, and I don't think that it's a problem. I think there's more, and I don't think it's a problem. So,
right.
I think they focus on it a little bit too much. But again, it's because what else are we going to focus on?
Yeah, I mean, when the
know.
head coach brings it up voluntarily, it's not
Right.
like somebody said, "How are like, have things been getting chippy out there?" It was like in the introductory, the beginning, his intro at his press conference, his opening statements, it was something like, "Yeah, I've had a few, little skirmishes out there," whatever he called them. But yeah, I don't think it was ever a major issue. I just think that, from time to time, guys are competitive and they're going at it. And I don't think it's a bad thing either. I think you'd rather see that than just have a malaise out there and guys just going through the motions. So yeah. And to Vince's point, I do think it's a little of both because we haven't had a lot of practice access. So, but again, we've got a full practice this Saturday when we get to see the Jersey scrimmage. So looking forward to that, and we'll see if anything gets chippy out there.
Woo! Chip it up. Let's go. Is it in the stadium this year, or is it?
It's in the IAC.
Okay.
Because did you know that there's a concert this Saturday, Vince?
Not until about 5 seconds ago.
Yeah, I literally did not realize there was a concert going on until we got the email like a week or so ago reminding us about, like the fact that
the parking and
go
stuff.
to practice and the parking situation. Apparently parking is going to be limited even at 9 a.m. for a concert that's later on.
Yeah, I now that you mention it, I do remember reading that. And I was thinking to myself, why is 9 a.m. parking a problem for something that happens at night? Like, I don't understand that. Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't work there.
But I don't even remember this Luke Combs concert ever even being announced.
I feel like the excitement level of concerts at Notre Dame Stadium has died down a little bit. Maybe that's just me, not really a concert goer, but doesn't seem to have the excitement that Garth Brooks had when he came.
No. Billy Joel seemed like a big ticket still.
It did. I don't know.
I remember, who did Shane Gillis come with? There was some other country act. I'm just not into country music, so it's like so far off my radar.
Right.
I think part of the reason that I didn't even realize, I'm sure on like country stations in the market, they've probably been, running ads and giving away tickets and all that kind of stuff, but we don't have a country station anymore.
That's a good point. So,
yeah. Sean Stewart wants to know the tailgate food you like to have while you're tailgating.
I'm like a brat or a burger guy. If you got the grill out, those are definitely the go-tos for me. From a protein standpoint, I'm cool with, finger foods, chips and, dips and stuff like that. Like, that's fine. But like protein, I want a good burger. Like, give me a burger with some cheese and the condiments.
I'm a brat guy, especially like a spicy brat guy. If I can go brats, that's like, I could probably stand out there and eat 50 brats in a day.
Brats are legit for a tailgate.
I was out there tailgating all day.
And if hot dogs are the only thing available, like, I'll go the hot dog route, but it's definitely a third choice.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. John says hamburgers. Yeah. Brats, burgers, any of the above. A good charred protein. I like a little char on the outside.
Okay.
That's
Noted.
where it's at. That's where it's at for me.
Noted.
All right. We got a few Notre Dame women's basketball questions in the mailbag as well. Domer Grizz says, I'm excited about the women's basketball incoming class, but is the league such that freshmen can make a significant impact, or will they need to develop for a year or two before hitting their groove? In other words, can we expect Hannah to have a significantly more talented surrounding cast this year, or should we temper expectations? Do you want me to just jump right in?
I was going to say, I feel like this one's directed to you, but at the same time, this day and age with NIL and everything, like, freshmen kind of have to step up a little bit. I mean, I'm speaking more in generalities than this specific freshman class. And it also helps to have a generational talent like Hannah Hidalgo to offset and to bring those freshmen along with her. So that's where I'll let you get into more specifics, but that's generally how I feel about it.
Yeah. And I mean, like, when you look at it, kind of, like, start with Hannah Hidalgo herself. She did really well as a freshman. So did Sonia Citron. So did Olivia Miles. So did Maddie Westbeld. Like all those players. Now, does it help to have some veteran presence around them? Sure, but like when you go back to Citron and Miles, when they were freshmen, Westbeld was a year older than them, and otherwise the roster was just kind of a mix. Like you had some veterans and stuff out there, but you didn't have like that dominant established veteran like you've got with Hidalgo and what she'll be to this team this year. So I think, and so did other you can go on down the line. Paige Beckers, Caitlin Clark. Now those are still some of the most elite of the players, like when you look at Beckers and Clark. But I think that when it comes down to it, I think what Muffet McGraw told me a couple of years ago is you never want to have to, rely wholeheartedly on a freshman. But at the same time, when they come in the door and they're, like a top 5 or a top 10 type freshman, you expect to get more out of them right away. And like that's what you've got with Jenica Lewis. She'll be a top 10 player, and JC Abi as well, the forward. Like she's not top 10, but kind of right in that ballpark, depending on which ranking you look at. They were both McDonald's All-Americans. So like I think that those two seem like they're the best bets to come in and have some impact right away when you add them to Hidalgo and whatever comes from the transfer portal with the veteran presences, they get, and KK Bransford as well. I think that those two for sure. And then you'll probably see at least one other freshman, maybe not make that high impact like that, but still be pretty impactful players coming in the door. So I guess to answer the question is, I expect them to be pretty good next year, and they'll have the entire season to kind of build up to the postseason, just like they did with this year's team. And you'll be starting with a higher bar just in terms of the overall talent that you're going to have on the team. It's just going to be younger. But I do think you can expect those kind of players to come in and make some instant impact next year.
We were talking about tailgate food. I need to bring this up from DJ because I feel like he's a man after my own heart. He says, doesn't matter the tailgate food as long as someone else bought it and grilled it. Preach, brother.
That's very true, too. You're eating free food? I mean,
that's right. Don't complain.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Hey, Domer Grizz is here live. He's not here usually live. That was a question that he submitted earlier. He says, caught a live show. What can we expect from KK? Again, the first, I think it was 12 games of the season she played in before the injury, she was a much more consistent scorer than what we saw at the end of the season because of the fact that she had to sit out for such a long stretch. And, so while she was out, the rest of the players on the roster, especially since it was such a small roster, had to kind of step up and take on different roles. So she was much less a scoring option by the time she came back. But, again, we've talked about this a lot, her defense and just her ability to play different positions. I think we're going to see more of that. But since she is that veteran presence with all those freshmen, I do expect to see a different kind of scoring, potentially from her. I think it can be more consistent next year throughout the season. If you go through the year without that injury in the middle like that, so that's kind of what I would expect to see. Chi-Town says, do the Lady Irish land either Audie Crooks or Addie Brown from the portal? Those are the two Iowa State players. No. Audie Crooks, I would say no, pretty emphatically. Addie Brown, I think that there is still a good chance. They're not going to spend the money to go get Audie Crooks, and I don't think she fits in the system that Neil Ivey wants to play either in terms of pace, defense, those kind of things. So, yeah. Much better chance at Addie Brown, the Iowa State forward, than Crooks, the center. Okay, we've got more basketball questions in here.
Okay, let's go.
Let's see if I can get my scroll on. This is from Darvis. It says, why doesn't the administration seem to be helping the men's basketball team? Seems like since day one, he hasn't had the support. Now, there are multiple questions here, so we'll start with this one. Your thoughts on that one?
Honestly, I've been asking myself that question an awful lot because, Notre Dame is not exactly poor.
Cash strapped.
The best way to put it. Yeah, they're not cash strapped. But they have made a conscious decision to basically put all their eggs in the football basket, which I understand the return on investment there. I get it. It's a bigger roster. You're going to get more clout by winning the national championship in football. You're going to get more ROI. Okay. So I understand that. But at the same time, you can still do that and put resources into basketball, and they decide not to. And I don't know the answer as to why. I think they should be able to. I think they can, and I think they should, but they just decide not to. And I don't know the answer to that.
I don't have a whole lot more to add to that. I've said before, it doesn't seem like it has to be an all or nothing scenario. Right. And I realize that they're putting something into it, but when you look at the resources and you compare them to the rest of the conference, because like the next question that Darvis says, it sounds like the NIL is bottom of the ACC for the team. I'm not expecting them to be the biggest spender, but the bottom seems terrible. It is terrible.
Yeah, and, I agree.
Again, they got the guy Duncombe from Winthrop yesterday, and it's Winthrop, and you go, oh, Winthrop, great, but he was at least the conference player of the year. At least they got the best player from the South. Like if you want to put some kind of silver lining.
That's some serious rationalization, but I'm not against you on that. But
as I've said before, I don't expect anyone else they get from the port. Like I don't expect Power 4 guys to come walking through the door and onto the roster. And if they do get those kind of guys, I expect them to be guys who didn't necessarily play a lot and are like 3.5 to 4.5 point per game, scoring averages, who are going to have to come in and prove themselves in another place. So again, with who they can afford based on the budget that they have right now, and we can talk about whether we all, I think, agree that they should be putting more resources into this thing than what they are, but based on what they're willing to spend right now, you're going to get, I think the best that you can hope for is guys like what they got yesterday with some experience from these smaller conferences, but then you're also asking them to step up as a collective once they get here and try to compete in the ACC. And that's still tough.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to add to that. I just, I don't want to be super out there, but to me, honestly, with Notre Dame being at the bottom of the barrel in the ACC and NIL, it's embarrassing. Like it's embarrassing. You've got so much money. Like Notre Dame has so much money. And I'm not asking you to spend $20 million. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking you to spend like 6 or 7, and that would still double what they're doing now. I don't know completely, but from what I understand, Marcus Burton got more at IU than Notre Dame's entire NIL budget.
Wow.
That's what I heard today.
That's insane.
What does that tell you? Number one, it tells me IU spending too much, and there's way too much money out there. But
basketball is still a priority at
right.
IU, even though they just won a football championship.
100%.
And like one of the benefits of football independence, as we've been told, is when you make a run like Notre Dame did in the college football playoff 2 years ago, all the way to the national championship game, you're keeping that money. You're not splitting it with the conference. So that's all that windfall is coming back.
Yeah.
You would think that some of that would go toward a program like men's basketball, because look, the whole you've got to spend money to make money applies here, because there is money to be made by the Notre Dame men's basketball team getting into the NCAA tournament, because just for getting in, you get some money. And then for every game you win, you get it's like a couple $1 million literally on the men's side in the tournament for each game you win. Now, not all of that is coming back directly to Notre Dame, because you are in the ACC. So like the conference gets that money first, and then, they disperse it, but you're also getting disbursements from the other teams in the ACC. who made the tournament. But like by being part of that, there's more money that can come back to you. And so, between that and, like the whole vicious cycle of who's actually going to pay premium dollars to go to a men's basketball game if you're not putting a product on the floor that's competitive every night, it just feels to me like not being willing to put just a little bit more into the men's program, and in terms of being able to retain players and go out and sign players. Like it feels like you're cutting off a big opportunity to have another revenue making sport by what you're investing in it right now. And then Darvis is also asking, does all the support go to the women's team? He says he can understand that as they have proven success and Ivy is media friendly, etc. The answer is no. Like even as low as the men's basketball team budget is, from my understanding, the women's is still even lower than what the men's is. So like the Audie Crooks, like if you have seen the numbers that are reportedly on Audie Crooks, which are, she wants somewhere between $750,000 and $1 million, that would be a majority of the women's basketball roster budget if they were to spend money like that on one player like Audie Crooks. So like even as low as the men's is, again, and I'm sure that part of the justification for that is even though the women have obviously had more success, there's a big disparity between what the NCAA tournament payouts are on the men's side compared to the women's side. Like you're still bringing in money in the women's side, but like the numbers I've seen, the men's tournament is valued at $1 billion a year. The women's tournament is valued at around $65 million a year. So there's a huge difference. Again, like when you look at those NCAA tournament units that you get by winning games, the windfall is still smaller on the women's side because, TV contracts and all that kind of stuff, but it's still smaller on the women's side than the men's side. So,
yep.
Yes.
It's just I'm this is not a shot at Marcus Burton or anything like that, but $4 million for one player for 1 year is astronomical. And maybe it's for 2 years. Maybe there's like a guarantee that he'll come back for 2 years or whatever. So that would make it $2 million a year. I don't know all the details. But what I was told today was it's a deal between $4 and $6 million. Like that's nuts. That's nuts to me.
That doesn't surprise me. But again,
I know. And again, it's not towards Marcus.
Yeah, no, but it's the difference in like Indiana at the end of the day, even coming off winning a miraculous football championship, they're still a basketball school.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
yep.
They're going to spend that money, and they've got the donors who are putting the money into it. So that's why you see that kind of disparity. 13 Reasons Why asks, how awesome would it be to see a Charles Jagusa fullback and Kedron Young running back package at the goal line?
It would be a novelty. Obviously, I don't know if it's something I would go to on a regular basis or anything like that. And that would only be if he's not starting on the offensive line, which obviously is 50-50 at this point, at some point during the school year. So, yeah, it'd be cool. I'm not going to lie. I'd get pretty jacked up for it. Whenever I was the offensive coordinator at a school, I always had a jumbo package where we would do something along those lines, just bring everybody in and just, hey, my guys are better than yours. We're coming right at your face kind of a deal. So that would be fun. Offensive linemen aren't always the best blockers as a fullback when you get a running start and all those kinds of different things. So I'm sure he would be great, but you just never know. So I'd have to see that first. But
I don't know if I want to put my All-American caliber offensive lineman who hasn't been able to stay healthy at a different position as a lead blocker.
Right.
Not sure if that's the direction I want.
And John says you should put Charles as running back. I am not a fan of giving the football to offensive linemen.
No.
Sorry. That's a hard pass for me.
Not at all. Sine Cosine Tangent says, you guys ever get those pointless calls from your wives? Like, why did you call me? There are plenty of times where I'll say, hello. And then I'll just sit there and it's like, you called me. What's next?
Every phone call I get from my wife is wonderful and expected, and I love every second of
I'm
it.
sure,
Yep.
Vince.
Yep.
You
Everyone.
can't wait to hear from her day in and day out.
Everyone. And I happen to know for a fact my wife is listening to the show today.
Oh.
So I love all your phone calls. Everyone.
Yep. He's never complained about one to me. Seriously, I'm not being sarcastic.
Yeah, I don't think I ever have.
No.
I know better.
Chi-Town wants to know if the Notre Dame baseball team will finish above 500. They're a little bit above 500 right now. They do have a series with Florida State coming up, but the schedule does get, a bit easier after that. Boston College,
Played
Stanford,
a lot of ranked teams
Oakland,
up to this point.
Pittsburgh. Yeah. I think they'll be 4 or 5 games above 500 at the end of the day. I don't know what that gets them.
Right.
Hopefully into at least the ACC tournament, but other than that,
I mean, they started off hot, obviously. Then they had quite the skid. And so, yeah, they need to get right. They need some get right games. They need to get right here. They beat Valpo, I think, yesterday. But they need to get right here over the next couple of ACC series. Not
they've
just
had a real rough
games.
stretch since
Yes,
that
they
sweep
have.
against Clemson. They have had a very rough stretch.
I mean, they snuck into the top 25
after that.
Yeah, it was a rough stretch for sure. So I do think they'll be over 500, but again, I agree with you. I don't know what that means exactly.
Let's take our top of the hour break. When we come back, it's rapid fire in hour number 2. You'll hear some comments from Marcus Freeman. If we have time at the end of the show before South Bend Cubs baseball, we'll get to some of the other mailbag questions that we've still got kind of sitting there. So we'll do that. With Vince DeDario, Sean Steyer's rapid fire coming up on Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. It is hour number 2 of the show, Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com. We are on track for an on-time start for the South Bend Cubs.
Yes.
Tonight, we will be giving away in about 35 minutes or so. As we head over to Four Winds Field with Brendan King and Tyler Reedy for the call of tonight's game. Vince, it's rapid fire time.
Ooh.
I think we've got plenty of content here for the next however long we end up going. This has been a big media week for Marcus Freeman. The Notre Dame coach is a featured guest on 2 national podcasts this week, and he is also featured in Esquire magazine. We had some of the cuts from the Bussin' with the Boys podcast yesterday, and I've got another one today. Taylor Lewan asked Freeman the age-old question on
Has
the
Notre
show.
Dame entered a conference, and has there been a conversation about that? Listen,
that is a whole kid. That's a whole separate pod.
Here's why I bring it up. 1, it's a great question. But 2, the haters, one of their big remarks about not making the playoffs, like, well, if you guys were in a conference, X, Y, and Z would happen. You'd have the opportunity because you'd be in a Power 4 conference.
There's advantages to being in a conference, and there's advantages not being in a conference. There's a lot of positive things that, trust me, that nobody was complaining about when we made the playoffs the year before. The independence, we look at it as a positive. Listen, we lost 2 games and didn't make playoffs. If our administration ever feels like we are truly at a competitive disadvantage by not being in a conference, I'm sure that we'll join a conference. But we're just, you shouldn't have lost 2 games. Simple as that.
Okay, Vince. Rate the answer on a scale of 1 to 10.
It's like a 9.5. Like, I love the exasperated breath at the beginning when he asked. That was perfect. I couldn't even help myself. I started laughing.
Really?
Like, are we asking about this? Like, but the answer is legit. He's like, look, there's advantages to not being in a conference. And he said it without saying it, talking about the playoff run. Like, every game they won, that's a one-man check. Like, that's going straight to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And that's the advantage of not being in a conference. You're not splitting that 18 ways, and so that's a definite advantage. And he said, look, if we're ever at a competitive disadvantage, we'll join a conference. There will be if Notre Dame ever said, hey, we're interested in joining a conference, every conference in the country would be beating down Notre Dame's door to try to get them in the conference. Period.
Absolutely. Look, just like you, I love that, like, oh, here we go. Like, we're asking this again. What did winning a conference do for Duke? Answer me that.
Right. Seriously.
What good did that do Duke? They won a conference. They won a Power 4 conference. Did it do them any good? No. Got Miami. Like, you can argue that that's what got Miami into the playoff, even though they were in a conference and they lost 2 conference games. They ended up in, even though Duke was the conference champion. So explain that whole thing. Explain the benefit of being in the conference in that situation, and like, again, great response. It's like, okay, nobody said anything 2 years ago about a conference when Notre Dame actually made the college football playoff, but now they're left out and it's a big issue once again. It just feels like a convenient excuse to bring up the whole conference situation. Look, Notre Dame's not going to give up independence because they missed the playoffs once. Now, if it happens 5 years in a row, like Freeman was saying, like if there's a competitive disadvantage, if it happens multiple times in a row, okay, maybe the conversation changes a little bit. At some point, you're probably going to have to do something different. But look, we don't even know what the format of the playoff is going to be next year, let alone 5 years from now. Like, more likely than not, the college football playoff is going to expand again beyond the 12 years. So what benefit would there be for Notre Dame to just give up, more than a century of independence and jump into a conference because you missed the college football playoff once? It's just not going to happen because of a one-off situation in the second year of a 12-team format, and that, like, they've also changed the auto bids this year. Like, that is something that's going to change this year. This upcoming year, 2026, the 4 Power 4 champs are going to get the auto bids. There is not going to be the same guarantee for the 5th conference champion like you had this year, which got James Madison in and which also pushed Notre Dame out. You had like so many unique circumstances that conspired in different ways to, that forced Notre Dame out, and that changes things. So, you're going to have a different set of circumstances this year. Like you're not going to give up independence if you're Notre Dame just because of one season like that. At the end of the day, like Marcus Freeman said, you needed to win at least one more game. You lost 2 games. That's what kept you out.
And I actually appreciate the fact that Notre Dame is, and by Notre Dame, I mean Marcus Freeman primarily because he's the head of the Notre Dame football program. He's wearing it, man. He's like, look, we lost too many games. We lost 2 games. We needed to lose 1. That's on us. It's not going to happen again. Like that. He's not making excuses. He's not saying, well, if we were in a conference, we would have been able to do this, or, if only this, or if only that. He's taking it. It's like, we didn't do enough. And so I actually appreciate that. And I think the players appreciate that. I think the fans appreciate that. And I think it dials down a lot of the conference talk as well, even though he still has to answer the question every now and again.
Yeah, and again, there's still the other side of this coin, which is all of these other teams would love to be independent as well if they could, but it's hard to be independent. It's hard to go it on your own. And, there are more things against Notre Dame probably now than ever because of all the conference realignment. And you do have all the TV revenue that's up for grabs and all that stuff. But again, even though Notre Dame is taking a smaller share of TV revenue on its own, it doesn't have to split it, with other schools. And when Notre Dame does make the playoff, they get all that many. There's still tons of advantages to being an independent. You don't have someone dictating the schedule to you, for one thing. And so meanwhile, on the Up and Adams show with Kay Adams that Freeman was on this week, well, she's playing the hits over there as well.
No, I'm sure.
Looking at the 2026 schedule this morning, and it came out, and people love to just say what they want to say, what they want to do, whatever. I'm hearing a lot. This is a weak Notre Dame slate we've got. Is this a strong schedule, Coach?
It's listen, this is our schedule, and it's hard to before a season say what's weak or strong, but listen, we got to get ready for this first one, and we got to take care of the opportunities that are presented to us, and that's what is important to us, and that's our mindset. It's not who we play, when we play, what's their record. It's okay. We got Wisconsin week 1. As I look at this, I don't even know now. Rice week 2, Michigan State, but this is we get 12 guaranteed opportunities, and that's the reality of college football is that you work 300 days a year for 12 guaranteed opportunities to play a different opponent. And so if you don't have gratitude for every one of those 12 games, then it's a lot of work for no reward. And so our guys are excited to play somebody other than ourselves. And again, we are as excited for this season, our opponents, the schedule, as we've ever been.
Okay, Vince. So I'm curious, what is the head coach supposed to say about the schedule at this point? It's not going to change between now and September. It is what it is, right?
What is he supposed to say? Yeah, man, it's the easiest schedule I've ever seen. Thank God I'm the head coach of Notre Dame.
Yeah, this is such an easy schedule. Let's give bulletin board material to everyone that Notre Dame is going to play this year.
Yeah, I mean, why would he say that? What answer are you expecting? Come on. Do your homework, do a better job of asking questions, because this is, I don't like this line of questioning in the first place, with the whole week schedule. Is that going to be your first question to Curt Cignetti? I can't believe you have such a weak schedule.
Exactly. Has anyone ever asked Curt Cignetti about justifying his schedule, about playing Howard, Western Kentucky, Rutgers, North Texas, and Purdue this year? Right. Is anyone gonna bring that up with Curt Cignetti?
Exactly
that? No, it doesn't happen. Or the fact that they played Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State next year. No one brings that up with the head coach at Indiana. No one's ever brought that up
Because everybody thinks that Notre Dame should be playing this murderer's row of a schedule because they're not in a conference. And so, you have no excuse. You don't play in a Big Ten. You don't play in the SEC. You don't have those 9 guaranteed conference games that you got to play. So we got to play these 3 cupcakes. Like, stop it. Just stop it. That's ridiculous.
And we've brought this up before because, like Wisconsin, one of them brought it up in that, Wisconsin came up and people are looking at Wisconsin now. And, it's like, oh, you're playing Wisconsin, big deal. Again, it's part of your cupcake schedule. Well, as we've said before, this game was supposed to take place 6 years ago, but it got pushed to this year because of the pandemic. It was supposed to be in 2020. That was to be the first of the 2 games. And then they played at Soldier Field in 2021, but this one got pushed because schedules are made so far in advance. But I think it's important to note, we've made some mention of this, but Notre Dame and Wisconsin announced their 2-game series 8 years ago. 8 years ago, they announced it. At the time it was announced, Wisconsin was in the midst of a 9-year stretch where they were consistently actually winning more games than Notre Dame. Wisconsin was the more successful program year after year at the time they announced this 8 years ago than Notre Dame was. Wisconsin was averaging 10 wins a season from 2009 through 2017. Notre Dame was averaging 2 fewer wins per season in that stretch. So it was actually a bigger risk for Notre Dame to schedule Wisconsin at that time. But, in the 8 years since this was announced, Notre Dame's trajectory has obviously gone dramatically up, while Wisconsin's has gone dramatically down, even though they both hired new head coaches in that time. And, like Luke Fickell was the more sure bet when Wisconsin fired him than Notre Dame. He had taken Cincinnati to a college football playoff and beaten Notre Dame in 2021. So like everyone wants to laugh about the fact that Notre Dame's playing Wisconsin 8 years later, but when they scheduled the games, Wisconsin was coming off a 13-win season that included an Orange Bowl win. It's just things happen, over the course of time. Programs go in different directions. Notre Dame is going in the right direction now, but no one wants to actually look and see the finer points of how all these things play out. Notre Dame didn't just call up Wisconsin yesterday and say, hey, you've had a couple of 6-win seasons. Let's play. That's not how it shook out. But again, no one's calling up Mario Cristobal. No one's calling up Curt Cignetti and questioning them about their schedules. No one's, calling out Mario Cristobal for the fact that they would rather play a home game against Florida A&M 2 years ago than play a road game against Notre Dame. That conveniently, consistently is just lost in the shuffle. The fact that Miami canceled a game at Notre Dame and the ACC let them so that they could play a home game against Florida A&M. Nobody talks about that. And, no one, Mario Cristobal is not apologizing for the fact that they're going to play Stanford, Florida A&M, Wake Forest, Central Michigan, to start off their season this year. Does that sound like a murderer's row? Basically, the only tough team Miami is going to play all year is Notre Dame. No one's questioning Mario Cristobal in Miami about that. It's just tired. It's just very tired. And Kay Adams used to be one of the hosts of Good Morning Football. I've always thought she did a good job there. She does a pretty good job, with these. And I listened to more of the interview than just that question, and there were some other good questions, but I feel like that, it's just one that everyone consistently misses on, I feel like. And it's just because it's lazy, Well,
and that's what it is. I mean, it's you're listening to other people talk and you feel like you have to ask that question. No, you don't. You don't have to ask that question. You don't have to ask, why is Notre Dame not in a conference? You don't have to ask about their schedule. Why don't you ask about, the competition at nickel, or why don't you ask about something that's actually important to the team moving on to this year?
Well, this is part of the deal though, as well, Vince. And this is a completely, different subject. And I understand, all of the local outlets, whether it's WSBT, Irish Breakdown, Blue and Gold, Irish Illustrated, all of the local outlets on the beat who've got podcasts would love to have Marcus Freeman on. Of course we would. But you don't do that because you basically got, 20 different outlets on the beat. And if Marcus Freeman goes on one, then he's got to go on all of them. So instead, like he's going on all these national shows. Well, what happens when you go on national shows most of the time is you don't get actual football questions. If he was on the podcasts of all these shows on the Notre Dame beat, he would be getting a ton of football questions. But you're going on these national shows, and you're not going to get those kind of questions on the national shows. You're not going to get, like who's competing at nickel and who's the next safety behind a Don Schuler and Tay Johnson. Like you're not going to get those on the national shows. And honestly, that's what the actual Notre Dame fans would like to hear the answers.
Yeah, 100%. And that it's disappointing. I mean, I realize there's softball interviews. I mean, he knows it. I mean, and to a degree, I get it. You want to raise the national profile, that kind of a thing. Like, I understand that. I get it. But I wish they did both. I'll leave it at that. I wish he was available to do both because he's an intelligent guy. He can handle having conversations about football with the local beat. He can absolutely do that. He has that ability. You know what I mean? You don't have to protect him. But I also understand you got to do the national puff pieces as well. Okay, fine, but do them both.
Yeah. This is kind of like, like in July, they do that New York Blitz where they do ESPN and all the
right
stuff. This month has kind of seemed like a little mini version of that with some of like basically this spring. There's been a lot more Marcus Freeman on these national shows.
I mean, he let those Bussin' with the Boys guys like in his house and they're shooting hoops.
Yeah, they did like a 2-day hangout over there.
What's going on here, man? Like, I'll come over and
I know
play
Vince
knockout.
Saw that. He wanted to go try to, do a little dunking.
Let's go, man. I'll play knockout with you. Let's go, man.
All right. Speaking of Wisconsin, Notre Dame opened as an 18.5-point favorite in the season opener against the Badgers. Too high, too low, just right.
I probably would not. I did not expect it to be that high, but in reality, it's probably accurate just based on how Wisconsin has been the last couple of years. And look, I'd be lying to you if I said I have delved into the roster that is Wisconsin right now and what they bring back, what they did in the – I've heard they had a good portal class, whatever. Yeah. Okay. Well, what I do know is that Notre Dame is going to be very, very good on offense, and they're going to be very, very good on defense. So what that says is they're going to score a lot of points and probably not give up very many. Okay, I think that's right where it should be, and I'm taking Notre Dame minus the points. So
yeah, I would as well. I think it's probably too low, but honestly – I would rather it, like when you talk about leave no doubt and motivation and all those I would actually rather see it be like about 4 points lower, just in terms of like the motivation of the team and that, like non-contentment and those kind of things to keep them motivated going in, because like 18.5 is still a pretty high bar for a season opener against a Big Ten team and a team like Notre Dame, I think.
No, I completely agree. I think they do a good job of self-motivation and internal motivation and the leave no doubt and all of these different things. So the spread probably won't matter, but I will never turn away bulletin board material. And if you're, if I'm Marcus Freeman and I see that Notre Dame is a 2-score favorite, I'm running with that. Like, are you kidding me? They only think we're 2,
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So,
and the fact that it's going to be even though it's a neutral site game, it's still going to be at Lambeau and all that kind of good stuff.
I mean, you're in the heart of Wisconsin at that point. And, Wisconsin, you're either a Wisconsin fan or you're probably not following college football if you live in Wisconsin would be my guess, more or less. Obviously, I'm painting a broad brush there.
Yeah.
But like it's going to be a Wisconsin home game, even though I think technically it's Notre Dame's home game.
It is.
Yeah, which is weird. The one in Chicago is Wisconsin's home game.
Yeah, it was weird how they
I don't understand that.
Like I never really understood it either. But I think it had something to do with TV, like who could televise it and that kind of thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Mel Kiper Jr. has both Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price going in the first round of next week's NFL draft. Kiper has Love going to Tennessee at number 4 and Price going to the Super Bowl champion Seahawks with the last pick of the first round. Vince, would you be more surprised if that does happen or if it doesn't happen?
Honestly, I would be more surprised if it does happen. I realize the Seahawks need to replace their starting running back. So, I mean, that's a great spot for Jadarian Price to fall to. And I don't mean fall to as in he should be higher or whatever. I think that's a great spot for him to get to.
Good place to go to, yeah.
Yeah. But for 2 running backs to go in the first round from the same school, that would be awesome. But I'm going to err on the side of that not happening and say I would be more surprised that did happen.
Yeah. Because, I'm talking about specifically these spots as well.
Okay.
Not just the fact that they're, both going in the first round. So, they're so many things can happen up there at the top of the draft. And it always feels like, we think we know what's going to happen. And then you always end up with a couple of those WTF moments.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And all it takes is one up at the top to kind of cause a ripple throughout the rest of the draft as well. So I'd be a little bit more surprised if this does happen than if it doesn't. But, based on what we know about these guys, I think they're both obviously very deserving of these spots. And it just feels like so many people are talking about Jeremiah Love at number 4 right now to Tennessee that it just makes me a little bit itchy as to whether or not that is actually, again, I'm not talking about deserving or anything else, but so many people seem so convinced that that's going to happen right now that it feels like that's a spot where you could see an instant shock up at the top of the draft.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I honestly, I'm kind of fascinated to see where Jeremiah Love goes, obviously at the top, and do you turn down a generational type player, a potential generational type player, because you don't need him,
right?
You can make any one of those teams better.
The last couple of days as well, there's all this talk about the Cowboys could trade up into that top 4, so top 4 means they would basically have to trade with Arizona. And I saw today there's talk about a trade with Cleveland, up there. So there's a lot of, and I don't think that they would be going up there to take Jeremiah Love. I think that they were either going to take Downs or now I'm drawing a blank. The linebacker. Why am I drawing a blank? Yep, one of the 2 Ohio State defensive players.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Yes,
I know who you're talking about. But yeah.
But in any case, I think that there's a lot of volatility up there and a lot of different things could happen. So fill in the blank. It's blank that according to the Nielsen rating service, Notre Dame women's basketball was the 5th most viewed television team this season.
It is refreshing to be reminded that Notre Dame women's basketball is still elite as a program. And I think that says it all right there. Fans follow Notre Dame women's basketball. They do. And they should. And I think that's awesome. And so, I'm not surprised, but it is refreshing.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either. I think what's interesting when you look at this is the fact that Notre Dame had the 5th most viewership of any women's team in the nation. And the 4 teams in front of them, UConn, UCLA, South Carolina, Texas, were the 4 teams that made the Final Four. So it's basically the Final 4 teams and Notre Dame were the most viewed teams in all of the nation this year. So I think that is fairly significant. And Sonny Styles, by the way, is the one.
Yeah, there it is.
That I was trying to come up with, and Tyler was the one who threw that up there, and Roger threw that in there as well. But it's pretty cool that Notre Dame is up there. And even before the end of the season data came out, they were running in the top 10, I think maybe even top 8 for a good chunk of the season in terms of most viewed teams and all that kind of stuff. And yes, I do think that Hannah Hidalgo, especially at the end of the season, played a big part in that. But I think that just as a brand, Notre Dame is women's basketball is still a very popular brand. So, like, you're talking about up there, like the team that won the national championship, a team that has won multiple national championships in South Carolina, and UConn, a team that has won a million of them as well, which is still, one of the most popular women's basketball programs in the country. So still right in that ballpark, in spite of the fact that, like they didn't have the season as a whole that I think a lot of people thought that they were going to have, but they sure had a great finish. And so this is across the entire season that this happened. This question I've been sitting on. It has got bumped and bumped for the last few shows. But while basketball is still fresh on our mind, Vince, who would be on your Mount Rushmore of active men's basketball coaches, and who would be the next 4 on your list?
All right. So you put your list on here, which I'm a little surprised you left that on there. But I've got my list.
Copy and pasted it. I meant to take it out, and I think I forgot to when I said it. So
I'm going to refer back to my list that I've got right here that I wrote the last time this was on the rapid fire. So I'm not going off of your list. But I did compare them just now. Okay. Okay. So here's my top 4, and I know there's going to be some pushback, and I'm here for it.
That's all right. Okay.
No particular order. Tom Izzo.
Okay.
Rick Pitino.
Okay.
Bill Self.
Okay.
And this is probably geography bias, but I am going to go Matt.
Hold on. Okay. You said it before I could.
Sorry.
I was going to guess. I was going to try to guess.
Oh, okay.
You went Matt Painter?
I did. I think what he's been able to do at Purdue to basically usurp IU as the basketball school in Indiana, I think that's saying something. Now, some of that is self-imposed by IU, but at the same time, Purdue is where kids want to go. They don't want to go to IU to play basketball. So that's why, again, I think that's probably geographically biased towards me.
Oh, that's fair.
That's why I put him there.
Yeah. You did have your list the other day, so I'm glad you've got it. So I've got 3 of the same ones as you: Rick Pitino, Bill Self, Tom Izzo. It's amazing, like, how long Izzo has been able to stay around, considering it's been 26 years since he won his only national championship at Michigan State. But even, for a long time, he always got got plenty of Michigan State teams to overachieve. And it's like, regardless of where they were seated, you could almost write them into the Sweet 16.
I know. Every year, and like you can count on them when you're filling out your bracket. You know what I mean? And I have a lot of respect for what Tom Izzo has done at Michigan State. Yes, he only has 1 title to his name, but at the same time, the legacy that he has left, the tradition that he has left, all of the things that is Michigan State basketball. That's Tom Izzo, like 100%. That's Tom. And I also realize that Magic Johnson went to Michigan State. But when I think of Michigan State basketball, I think of Tom Izzo.
Yes. Again, active listening, Joseph.
Yeah, well, this
active.
Is wow.
Active is the key word. He said, what about John Wooden, Mike Krzyzewski, Bobby Smith? Active coaches. We're talking Mount Rushmore of active coaches. I mean, obviously, if you even go back 5 years, that changes this list pretty dramatically, because Roy Williams and Mike Krzyzewski were both still coaching at that point. And that makes this list a lot more difficult. But Pitino, Self, and Izzo are the same 3 I've got as yours. I've got John Calipari on the list of Mount Rushmore as well.
I think I forgot he was still coaching, if I'm being honest.
Down at Arkansas, got a team.
I forgot about that. My favorite thing was, what didn't people think that they were like a Cinderella last year? Yeah. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, stop it. Like, they're not a Cinderella.
It was Calipari's first year.
I know, but they also were infused with a lot of money.
They were. So Pitino, Self, Calipari, Izzo for me. Okay. Pitino, Self, Izzo, Painter for you are your top 4. These are active.
Right. Coaches. Yep.
And Mr. John says Pitino, Izzo, Self, Dan Hurley. So he is also kicking Calipari out of the top 4. Hurley Not a bad one. So
Hurley's not a bad one.
who is your second 4?
Hurley.
Okay.
Mark Few.
Okay.
I put Dusty May on there because he's kind of the flavor of the week, if you will. I mean, he did just win a national championship, but he has been kind of the name the last few years.
True.
And I think his stock is very much pointing up. And so the fact that we're doing current coaches, I'm putting him on the list as in my next 4.
Fair enough.
And then I actually have John Shire on here as my last one.
Okay.
I know he hasn't won yet, but I believe he's been to a couple Final Fours. He's a good coach and he's in a good situation. He's in a good position, obviously, but I think he's a good coach. I think he's going to get one at some point.
Okay, so go through your second 4 again. Go through
Hurley, Few, Shire, May.
Okay. I've got Hurley, Few, Kelvin Sampson down at Houston.
Yeah.
I have Rick Barnes on mine, but I could actually, I probably forgot about Matt Painter, and I might sub out Barnes in favor of Painter and put him on my second 4.
I like that.
Shire was considered. I just think Dusty May is still too recent.
I get that.
To be on my.
I've got a geography bias and I've got a recency bias on my list. So, and I see it. I'm okay with it,
Right.
But you're right, man. Some of those big names, some of those Hall of Fame coaches that have just retired in the last few years, it's like, man, I kind of had to dig a little bit to fill this list out because it would have been easy, with like you said, with Coach.
If those two, if Williams and Krzyzewski and even Boeheim, think about that.
Sure,
those
absolutely, 100%.
I think if those 3 guys were still coaching, they absolutely have to be on the top tier. And then So then what are you doing with Patino, Self, Calipari, Izzo? Like those guys.
If those 3 guys are there, man, I'm trying to think of the one guy that I would also have on that list. It would, for me, it would be between Self and Izzo for me to round out the top 4. If those 3 guys were still active.
And I think, I realize I'm completely biased, but Self does have 2 more recent national championships than what Izzo has.
Absolutely.
He's been around longer. So.
Right. Yeah. So you judge the length and the, success.
What do you think about the fact that Few is getting into the Naismith Hall of Fame without a national championship under his belt?
I have always had an issue with the Naismith Hall of Fame that they put guys in before their careers are over. So I don't like it because he's still writing his chapter. He's still writing his story. You're going to go in, you're going to have the plaque under your name with your accomplishments. What are they going to do? Get a chisel and put some more stuff on there? If you can, I don't. And they do this all the time, obviously, right? I mean, they put Muffet McGraw in, while she was still coaching.
Muffet and Bill Self went in the same year, and
right,
they were both obviously still coaching.
I would be like, no, I'm not a fan of that. Let them finish their career. Let's get the accomplishments all sorted out. Then you go in. And I'm not saying they don't deserve to be in. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying wait till the career is over.
I completely agree. And it feels to me like I realize Mark Few has won a lot of games and had a lot of success at a school that was not, it's basically still a mid-major in a very small market, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but he hasn't won a national championship. And that just, it seems odd to me that you should get into the Naismith Hall of Fame, like the pinnacle
right
basketball, and not at least have one national championship under your belt. That seems odd to me.
I agree.
As an active coach, especially. Because if we want to look at it at the end of his career and look at everything that he did, similar to Mike Leach as an example. Obviously, Leach never won a national championship, but he's in the College Football Hall of Fame. Now, that's even a little bit different because the Naismith Hall of Fame is everything. It's not just college.
Yeah.
So it's like pro and college. But, I agree with what you're saying. I think that that a national championship, especially as an active coach, is a must. And I don't understand why we're in a rush to put these coaches in before they're done coaching even. So
even the college football, or at least they used to when it was in South Bend. I assume it's still the same, but even the College Football Hall of Fame waits until coaches are done with their career and waits until players are even done with their professional careers before they put them in.
I just realized we've got to wrap it up here in about 15
see that.
seconds.
I wasn't even paying attention.
I wasn't either. And the next thing I knew, it was time. All right. So we will wrap it up with that. We will talk to you again on tomorrow's show. For Vince DeDario, Sean Stiers, we've got South Bend Cubs baseball coming up next. Budweiser's Weekday Sports with IrishBreakdown.com.